Bonjour! Welcome back. This is the third installment of my Conversations with Women Renaissance of the Yoniverse. And it's open to men and women and anyone in between, right? Try to get your mind right at the same time. And I have a really great guest here, and she really blew my mind over the past couple of weeks, getting to know her more and really focusing more in on what she's writing on Facebook. She's going over a lot of stuff that I've been wanting to speak about with other women, and it's like voila, let's start with you kind of thing, and going over things from women's place in the astrological world because it seems a little compromised, and just like with the dating and the relationships, and why are men calling women bros and that weird stuff. So it's like I love the way you articulate and observe things from a very rational, logical perspective, and through your experiences we've related on quite a bit of things, and my heart goes out to you. I feel you, and just really looking forward to hearing what you have to say and sharing some of the things with us. So yeah, how you doing,
I'm
Cheryl?
doing great. I'm glad you asked me on. I've known who you are for a while now, and it's interesting to follow and watch people grow, not just as humans, but as a channel. And so I'm glad you're listening to me as a human and not just some chick online.
That's that heart-based intelligence, so
Yeah.
yeah. So how's it going? You're out in Arkansas. I didn't even introduce your proper name. Ace or
Hey,
Cheryl Ashburn.
Cheryl. My name is Cheryl. Earth Alchemy is my business name, and I also have a podcast, Deep Water, that I started like 3 months, 4 months back. So, but I'll go by Cheryl. That's Cheryl. So
Right on, Cheryl. And yeah, appreciate the time and consideration you have for us here today. And you picked some cards that we're going to get into later. But yeah, if you want to share, things about you, if you want to go over, let people know, and even myself, a little bit more about yourself and kind of
okay.
how you came to be the modern day marvelous mystic that you are.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't really call myself a mystic, but I guess I
Right.
I
Yeah.
am in a sense. Like I've always been spiritual. I've always been into tarot cards. Well, not always, of course. I started when I was a young teenage girl, like most young girls, especially nowadays. Started off reading tarot cards and looking at the newspaper, astrology, getting into like, ooh, and then like I was raised in a church and we went to church on Saturdays. We didn't celebrate Christmas. So I was always questioning stuff back then. So but like my life's been up and down, up and down. And I've traveled all over the place. I've been to all over the United States, Australia, and just a little bit of Canada and a little bit of Mexico. But as far as in like the spiritual side of me, I don't know. I'm a hermit by nature here lately over the past 5, 6 years. So, and I just listen to a lot of lectures and I'm into a lot of different things. So, like that's me. And I make a lot of things. I love to dance and I make crafts like headdresses and dream catchers and I Reiki and all that stuff. So, and I'm into astrology. So that's pretty
Wow.
much the gist of it.
That's great. Yeah, you have a really cool flow of energy with your dancing. Some of those videos I saw. That's really cool.
I've been like dancing around in the bedroom and the living room and clubs when I was in my 20s since when I was little I would dance around. I was one of those kids in the 80s, grew up in the 80s, 90s, and the centipede, the breakdancing kids. So in the clubs, in my 20s with the raves. So I've always danced. So it's just something that I've just loved to do. So it's just always never been professionally trained or anything. Just love to dance. So.
Yeah, just moving and grooving, right? Yeah.
Right. And I also think that dancing, when it comes to like meditation, a lot of people like to sit and meditate, and like get their mind straight. But like I have a lot of fire in my chart. So I
Yeah.
have to move. There's a lot of movement and flow. And like to be able to connect with like your energy and your breath work with that movement and flow and balancing out your body, I think that's a lot to do with it too.
Damn. Yeah, I can relate with that. And yeah, your Sagittarius was pretty on fire with your travels and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of Sagittarius, a lot of Taurus, a lot of Earth energy. So that's probably why I make
Oh, that
things and
makes
I'm out in the
sense.
woods and you
Yeah.
know. So, but I've been off grid for, well, quasi off grid. I have electricity and stuff like that, but I was off grid for like 4 years, and that was pretty tough. Being a single woman off grid by herself. I mean, I had help here and there, but pretty much by myself. So,
Damn, that reminds me of a ex girlfriend out in Canada. Just yeah, trying to make it happen, chopping wood, fetching
chop
water,
wood,
and
trees, cleared land, and chopping some trees. Not really big trees because I can't pick up huge chainsaw and stuff like that, but like as much as I can by myself, and all that. So it's definitely been an experience.
yeah, totally. And you kind of mentioned to me in recent times you've been looking to build or find a proper community of folks that are like-minded, are willing
Yeah.
to be more off-grid and stuff, or quasi or whatever, right?
Well, yeah, well, just like-minded in like a spiritual manner. It doesn't even have to be off grid because that's really hard. I don't think people realize how hard it is to live off grid.
Yeah.
It really is, and especially if you wanted to start family, you got to think about that kind of thing as well. But community, as far as in like healing and art and music, and just like a healing of sorts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And like, I don't know, I always have a infatuation with women that are into those things, and it just seems like they're born with those intuitive attributes, more than guys, especially. So they're more easily able to work with the energies and stuff. And there's a good amount of folks that are considering themselves or labeling themselves like energy workers, but sometimes they're not necessarily working with the right energies or even mathematics and things of that nature. If you're familiar with like the clip off or Metatronic reversals and blah blah blah, right? But I think they're when people really are just like in tune with their hearts, it's really just it comes out more naturally, and they're not just sticking to what they learned and this and that. Yet it's great to learn and have confirmation of things, but does that make sense?
It does make sense. That's a thought that I've been having lately. It was like, us in the spiritual community, it feels like we're worshiping something one way or the other, and we're giving over our power. And when you work with your own energy and like understanding where you're coming from, and how your energy affects not just yourself but those around you, it does come a lot easier. So and there are a lot of people who say they're energy workers, but they don't want to work with like actual energy. They want to work with the light. And that's a difference, in my opinion. I might be wrong. I don't call myself a light worker. I would say more so like an energy mystic worker,
Mm,
but energy is not just positive, it comes with a negative as well.
right.
So,
And yeah, like the subconscious mind, subconscious unconscious mind is really deep, right? And that's doing that shadow work and all these things, right?
right, right, exactly.
Yeah. Any thoughts on shadow work as far as do you notice any differences between the path work of doing that inner work? Is it
In my life? In
yeah,
my life, yeah, I've noticed a huge difference working with astrology, and not so much tarot cards, but astrology and knowing my birth chart. And it can bring a lot of the shadow work aspects into it, where your Chiron placements are, where you feel that pain and that energy, that where you can heal yourself and all that, but also where all your placements are, you can see the energy and you can work with it in the aspects and in the transits and stuff. So like energy work, and when you do a lot of shadow work and you understand the darkness in your own self, it's cliche, but you really do can understand the darkness in other people, and you can give people a little bit more grace than what if you can't give yourself grace in this world, when it comes to shadow work, it's hard to give other people grace. You know what I mean?
yeah, totally. And I guess what I was fumbling around trying to say was do you notice a difference between the types of shadow work that is kind of necessary for females, and is it different for men?
I would think so, yeah. It really, I think shadow work is different for everyone. It's different for every individual. Depends on where you've been in your life and what's going on. some people's shadow work could be completely different, and it wouldn't work for someone that's not been in a certain situation. So you really, first, I think shadow work has to start with, like, where did you come from? Your past.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And the whole parental situation and all that.
Hmm.
And I
Hmm.
guess, I had this in mind, when I asked that question, and maybe it doesn't really fit in properly, and that's totally fine. But what I mentioned to you in the pre-recording of how, yeah, this series, I'm trying to ask, pretty much all my guests, like, how is it being a woman in the Matrix, and just having to be, imbalanced most of the time, like having to do all that masculine type of energy, and it's hard to, fall back into your feminine essence a good amount.
Right, right. And it is like sometimes women can get caught up in their masculine energy and they'll always push forward and go, go, go and have to strive and succeed. And so where they're stressed all the time, they're always anxiety, their cortisol levels are affected by it. And to be able to just sit and relax and be, I think a lot of women take that for granted. And it is hard in the matrix as far as in the system that we live in society, whether you're over there or over here, it's still a system that we have to work to survive, no matter if we're in a family or a relationship, or even if we are. So women, being able to sit and be and understand themselves and their body, I think that's where we're getting lost in this.
Damn, yeah. And it's funny you asked me, like, oh, so Derek, how is it living in France and all that? And it's like, yeah, it's great. The quality of life is good, but I didn't really say much about that. But in more detail, it's just, I mean, things are sometimes significantly less expensive over here than in the States, for example. But you make sometimes significantly less money. But the vacation time could span from 4 weeks to 8 weeks type of thing. My ex-wife, she had like 8 weeks and then some, a couple of days. But yeah, it was funny. But all that free time, what are they doing? They're enjoying life. They're relaxing, and they're not
Right.
worried about work and all this other stuff they have to do. And like when I'm back in America visiting, sometimes I just see everyone is like, go, go, go. Their schedules are always full. They have like no free time to do anything, even though they'll say they don't have free time, but they're always reserving something to watch TV and tune in and cop out in the evenings or whatever. But whatever.
Hmm. Right. Right. And in the States, there's a lot of single mothers. They have to do everything, not just for the children, but the women here in the States anyways, like they're so worried about like their kids, and they get lost in their families. It can be really hard for them to just do something for themselves, and in a healthy way, not in a toxic way, out partying or anything like that, but in a healthy way to make themselves feel better. So I think that's another thing that women have to work on, and being artistic, and being free flow in their bodies, and it's just it's hard to get women to, like to dance, for instance. If they don't feel comfortable in their own bodies, they don't want to dance. They find it, to be able to move freely, it's hard for them.
Damn, and kind of, it just reminded me the way you said it of I mentioned this with Mario West, not in my previous, but like back in 2022 or 23, when
Hmm.
she first interviewed me on her conversations with men. This has always been heartbreaking and interesting. Just the fact that a lot of women have never experienced like a proper orgasm in their life, and it kind of correlates to what you're saying. They're not fully into their bodies, I guess.
Right, right. They hold themselves like, and it's hard for a lot of things, not just being free in their bodies, but it's hard for pregnancy. It's hard for women to get pregnant if they're just tensed up all the time.
Jeez, yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, it kind of confirms why one of my ex-wife's friends had a miscarriage and stuff. Because yeah, it's just yeah,
And,
it's
and
really
and it's not the woman's fault, I don't think, in society. I
no,
think women have been taught to be a lot of different things, you know, and
yeah.
we
So what's up
there's
with
a lot of pressure.
what what were kind of like you don't even have to go into experiences, but just your overall observations and critiques on, societal expectations of women, throughout the decades, even because it seems to
Right,
have
right.
changed a little bit.
Yeah, like when I was younger, it was much different, of course. I was raised in the 80s, as a child in the 80s and
Word, me too.
teen 20s and the 90s, so it was a lot more, women could be tomboys, women could
Yeah,
be, we could be still girly girls and a tomboy and or you could be a prissy girl, depends on what person you are and what kind, because all girls are different, just like all guys are different in their personalities and their characteristics and stuff like that. But I see that through the years, like not just the female side of it, but also the masculine side of it. I think we're all confusing like what it is to be a man and what it is to be a woman, and it's not so much in the arguments that we have today. I think I've seen it a lot because I've been around like drag queens where it was just drag queens and going to drag shows and they knew they were guys. It wasn't like, they claimed to be this or that. And but I've also seen like where women can like be whatever. It's not something so forced on them to do whatever, you know what I mean? To be one or the other. But I think also like in relationships, it can be forced. Like certain women aren't, cut out for certain things compared to other women. And me, like growing up and going through the years, I could see where like I was expected to be this or that. Like I was expected to work and still be this, this, you know what I mean? And you can't really, it's hard to balance it, you know?
yeah, yeah. It's funny how certain things come up in these relationships, like, oh, you were expecting me to do all this stuff. Well, we didn't really talk about it before like that, but it's just then it just comes like that, and like you have to improvise. But then they make their choice to and expectations or whatever, right?
Right. Well, even family will give you expectations of like, you've got to
Yeah,
get married at a certain age. You've got to have so many kids at a certain age because that's what they did, And
yeah, that's big
society's
time in
changed a lot
France.
since, the 90s. So,
Yeah. Yeah, in the 2000s and stuff, it's kind of more laissez-faire. Yeah, go out and explore the world for 10 years, and then go and get a family or something.
well, see, I was married in the 2000s. So like,
Yeah.
I had a job. I worked on the pipeline, I was a truck driver.
Oh, damn.
So,
Whoa.
like I've had a lot of crazy jobs and so like, to say that women are supposed to be, like, my ex-husband sat in the truck beside me. He didn't work for the company. It was my truck. He was just there to help me navigate. So,
Ah,
so
yeah, 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 and like these things, kind of cross my mind sometimes when, I've been working in restaurants for over 15 years and all that, and working with females, in every restaurant and stuff, and
mhm.
I don't try to like treat them differently and stuff. I see them as just like good coworkers if they're, if they have good skills, of
Right. If
course.
they're good coworkers, right. And, like
Yeah.
women, I think not just women, but all of us are just so wrapped up in what online have got going on that we forget that there's real people in the world.
Right? Yeah, yeah. You ever get this? Because, well, maybe not because you're not a guy, but a guy like myself goes into a restaurant to work with this team, and it's like majority females. There's only like one other guy, and I get like thank yous from several women, kind of on the side individually, like, oh, thank you so much, because there's like it's just so hard when there's too many women and stuff. And it's like, really? Because I was like young, it's like 2006. I was like, but I thought y'all loved each other. Y'all are so beautiful. I see women as the most beautiful thing to walk on the planet. So I thought y'all would all be getting along. You guys represent the non-aggressive principle and all these things. So what's got your feathers ruffled about each other, kind of thing?
Women are territorial. Women are territorial. Women, we give being like a cat. That's why we're called cats. Yeah, because we're catty to each other. A lot of women can be very catty to each other, no matter what it's about. And competition or territorial or just they didn't get along with their sisters.
Ooh, yeah. And it reminds me
Yeah.
of the difference between how men would act towards each other versus women that act. And it, like I spoke about this with my coworker manager today, who's great. She's a lovely woman in like mid 50s and stuff, but and she's down with like Hermes Trismegistus. We have great conversations at work. But anyways, she works with her daughter, and she asked my manager has to use that masculine energy on her daughter because she's not listening, and her daughter's like, "Oh, why are you being so aggressive and this and that?" While at the same time, she's like throwing microaggressions at her. So it's kind of like that subtle cattiness against like the aggressive masculine energy, I guess. There was a mosquito, but
Right? They're bad here too. So all the hell insects are out. It's getting warm. But the masculine energy, so that's where, okay, so like we're going to talk about masculine and feminine energies, all right? And like in like hermetics, like we're supposed to be like centering and integrating both within ourselves. So like for me over the past 10 years, it's really not just about integrating my feminine energy. It would be also like working with the animus and like the masculine energy within me, and not like in a masculine sort of way, but like compromising what that is. And so like mothers sometimes have to use like that deeper voice or that assertiveness to get a child to listen to them. It's like tough love, because teenage daughters will fight with you.
are you talking about like cat scratch fever type of stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. Are you a mother yourself?
Yeah, my daughter's 30. I'm
Oh
a
wow.
grandmother.
Oh wow.
So,
That's great.
but yeah, my daughter's 30. So yeah. But
Excellent.
women, we have that fight, like just like guys do, where we want to like the dragon fight, as Caesarean would say, the dragon fight, where we're like we have to, we don't want to be suppressed by our mother. We want it to be able to
Yeah.
be who we are as an individual, a sovereign being, and so like it's that same thing with guys, with their mother and their father. And it may be in a different way, because it's a little bit more, women can be more subconscious about it. We're not so aggressive like men, we're more like, I did a podcast about BDSM and stuff like that. We're like, women like to talk from the bottom, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, and that's
Yeah,
where that because we're not like physically strong as men, so we have to figure out ways to,
manipulate and
go
stuff.
around up and over.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's quite the interesting dynamic, and like for me as a guy, sometimes I just want to sit back, relax, and just observe, and not get emotionally disturbed by certain things that I see, or even looking back in my past and stuff, which wasn't all that bad at all. It was actually pretty good, but I was a late bloomer as far as uh, popping my cherry or whatever. What was I like? I was like 19, and all like pretty much all my peers, got laid years ago, and
Yeah.
not like it's a competition, but I was my confidence was really low, and I was a Leo, and so like my fire was snuffed the fuck out for my early years a little bit. So
That's hard on guys. It really is, because it's more comes from your friends. It's a more of a peer group thing, right? It's, or even your dad, you hadn't, girls don't have like that thing. Girls, it's not hard for girls to get laid. So girls have to be more choosier than guys, and guys, they want to, and at that age for men, or, young men, it's like, it really helps their masculinity. It definitely does.
yeah, I think I was being too choosy, but I don't care. I have no regrets at all, and
Right, and you shouldn't. You shouldn't. You're not the 40-year-old virgin. So
oh no, yeah, it's funny because I almost had a threesome the first time I like had sex. But anyways,
well,
something you were talking about with I want to get into something later, but if you have
as
any
far as
other,
the bro, let's talk about the bro stuff.
yeah, please, yeah, that's a good place to.
Okay, so the bro, I think it's from a younger generation. Guys from a younger generation are doing it. I think. I don't know. Maybe it's also like a city thing. You know what I mean? Like they're from bigger cities and stuff like that. But I've noticed it a while back. It's not something new to me. I've noticed it a while back, and it's they feel like they're so like we're just like their friends. So they talk to us like we're like they're just their friends. You know what I mean? Even if they don't see us as a masculine aspect, they still talk to us like a masculine aspect. So I don't know if it's comfortability or what, but I'm not like that. But I come from an older generation, so.
And but you were called like a dude a couple times.
Well, dude, yeah, they call well, dude, man, like sweet, dude.
Right.
You're from California, right?
Yep. Yeah, yeah. And it's like, yeah, I'd be saying that to my homegirls, but like in that context, I wouldn't be like, "Hey, dude, can you help me out over here?" No, I'd just call her by her name, like.
Well, it's a crazy world we live in, You could if you could dress like a woman, then you're
Yeah, but oh, woe is me with the broski, kind of slowski with trying to consider other people. And I don't know if you notice this as well with the youth. They want to make things shorter. Like every single word, they want to like or cut it short. Or I want to say
Mhm.
hyphenate. I don't think that's the right word. I spoke French for 8 hours today. I'm good, but
Oh, you speak French too? That's cool. I
oh
guess you
yeah,
have to speak it living there.
oh
Yeah.
man,
Well, that's cool. And you like your job there and you're close to the beach.
yeah. And the women over here are really cool. There's some that are kind of flip the script on like years of being way too oppressed from the macho, what is it, machismo, whatever type of
Chad,
mentality. Second,
Chad.
yeah, if that means, and I'm talking about European, like Spanish, Italian, French, Southern Mediterranean, where
Mhm.
it's kind of like uh, man goes to work and that's all he needs to do. He comes home, he can just put his feet up and not have to lift a finger for pretty much anything. The wife is going to be cooking, cleaning, and doing everything else for type of thing.
And that's cool if that's what they want to do, like if it's not
Sure.
oppressive, not abusive.
But
So
can you imagine that, men not being able to cook food for themselves?
I
Like,
can imagine that, yes.
because they're losing out on life skills because they're not developing them because they're letting someone else, they're codependent on that. And we can get into like relationship dynamics and with the codependencies and all that stuff because like with women's roles and men's roles in the household and this and that, like what, like men can't fold socks or women can't do yard work or other stuff.
Well, I don't want to anymore.
Fair enough, yeah, no worries.
I think with women my age, like we were taught to strive and we could do anything and we can get anywhere and you know what I mean? Like some of us have lost that. That's not what we want to do. You know what I mean? I'd rather chill and like do my art and like Renaissance, actual Renaissance where I'm getting paid for doing art, or like,
Yeah,
you know, performance and stuff like that. But it's such a dog eat dog world in the Matrix online and in real life.
yeah, yeah, that money motivator really messes things up quite a bit.
Yeah, it
um
does.
Feeling congested. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. Makes me think. Are there any Renaissance fairs over where you're at?
There are pagan Renaissance fairs and stuff like that, but not close to me. It's several hours away.
Ah, damn.
So I'm in the Bible Belt, which doesn't help my
Ha!
business really,
Oh
but
shit.
so uh, but yeah, so there's fairs and stuff, and there's more people like not so much they're dabbling into different things, more pagan stuff and more nature stuff. And I think, in the next couple of years, the states will be not so Christianized. I personally think that. I think that it's changing over time. Not saying what they're going to be, but just it's not going to be so, you know. Do you want to talk about my Saturn card here?
Ooh, yeah, we can do
So
that.
I pulled the cards before we started, and we of course we got Saturn, and it's the truth. Saturn, and if anyone knows anything about Saturn, it's a chronos and time and work and life's debts and you know. And then we got Sobek, and Sobek is like a Egyptian crocodile horn god,
Uh-huh.
and it's a power card, and and it can be destructive. So like I think we need to like when it comes to like the spiritual community and we're in and or the masculine versus the feminine battle that we got going on right now, that we need to give it time and grow with foundations and speak our truth and instead of using it for destructive our power our vocal power, you know, because women I think we get we use our masculine when we're upset like a lot of the times, you know. And I think that's what guys are turned off by is when we're upset and we're vocalizing our emotions and our power through our voice.
Yeah, yeah, I see what you mean. And something that came to mind when you were talking about like the destructive aspects in context to everything else that you mentioned, and with Kronos, is that yeah, when people are going to be realizing the truth and acting upon it, it's going to destroy their old paradigm of the falsehoods that they're operating on and all that stuff.
Right.
So there can be growth for that new good type of shit.
Right. And it's going to take time to build foundations. And, you know, it also has to do with your bones, you know, rocks and Capricorn and Saturn. And Saturn's such a, you know, everybody can get lost in Saturn. You know, it's one of those words that the occult, it's so occult, you know, can mean different things. The cube, the box that we can put ourselves in. It's the devil card.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, my Libra's in Saturn on the 29th degree. It's pretty rough.
29th degree Libra. A lot of hard work, huh?
Yeah, and kind of learn the hard way sometimes, but
Yeah, yeah. A lot of hard work in Libra,
yeah.
balancing of the relationships.
Yeah, you're familiar with the astrologer Rodney Goodwin, right?
Yes,
Yeah, he's
Rodney's
great.
really sweet.
I did a
Yeah,
reading
yeah,
with him, and he mentioned like I have a lot of karmic relationships in this lifetime and stuff, and that's why it's
yeah.
taking my time with these things. Chronos,
Kronos, yeah, yeah, karma, and it could be dharma, you know. It could also be
Mm,
dharma, depending on how you work with it, you know, work with those energies. Because you know, like most of people understand that like the Saturn, each planet could have like a higher aspect versus a lower aspect, you know. And so yeah, but Rodney's good. I like the language he uses when he describes the astrological transits, and yeah, he's a sweet guy.
yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, he's been our featured astrologer on Dissolving the Divide that I have with Leslie Powers. And she knows exactly what you're talking about with the young adolescent daughter
Yeah,
striving for her own independence and doesn't want big mama telling her
you're
what to
having
do
the
every
dragon fight.
yeah. um so I think you had a Facebook post talking about what's the deal with all these guys expecting a woman to be submissive, or what's didn't you write
Right.
something about that?
That's a big thing. Okay, so like so you know the red pill community. It wasn't the red pill like the masculine versus the women community back in the day. It was just the red pill versus the blue waking up versus staying asleep, right? Well, it's morphed over the past like 5, 6 years into like the manosphere, you know, and like and it's the whole submissive thing, you know, like there women will only be submissive to someone that she feels she can be submissive to. You know, a lot of guys will go into a relationship and expect automatic submission. you know? And, women are more receptive than submissive, and there's a big difference in that, you
Yeah.
know? And we're reflective, not just of who we are, I think more so than guys are. I think women think about, like, themselves way more than guys think about themselves, and not a narcissistic way, but just self-aware.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. For sure.
So, but, the submissive thing, it's, like, automatically nowadays because it's so been talked about over the past 5, 6 years, it's a talking point. That's what it's become, a talking
Yeah.
point.
Yeah,
So,
right.
and I've noticed, like, guys online, you've probably seen my posts about the, like, why do strange men online expect me to explain who I am to them? Like, I don't even know them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't
Or why
know.
I posted what I posted. It's like a demanding energy that they just come forth with. So,
Yeah, kind of.
argumentative, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I've had my hangups with this whole idea of women's got to be submissive, or just like the word submissive tied to the woman. It's like, what's up with the equal energy exchange and all this stuff? And what is she submitting to exactly? Right?
Right. Like, I'll let you lead, but you better know where you're going,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
you know? I mean, so because women are lost. Yeah, I mean, there's some women that are lost. There's that are not. That they know what they want in life and all that. But there are some men that are lost and some men that are not lost. And like, if men that still don't know who they are as a person and still trying to find their way, how are they going to lead anyone anywhere?
Yeah. 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 For me, like, when I was looking for love after being divorced, I just wanted to be with a woman that, shared a similar vision and be on the same level, and looking to just live possibly off the grid as much as possible or
Mhm.
whatever, right? And just be as self-reliant and uh, abundant as we could be, and just like combine forces and just have that extra kinetic energy, and it's like, bam, it's just magic, right?
Right, and that's the dream for I think a lot of people want that, I don't think there's not one of us humans that don't want that,
Mm.
love and equal understanding, give and take. But I think so many people have been hurt in past relationships that it's just harder to do nowadays, and then we've got everything online it's the algorithms telling us this, and then it's the opposite of this.
Yeah, totally. And it's a really it's a big shame that yeah, there's too many hangups with people based off of their prior relationships, and it's like they haven't done the proper shadow work to get through it and just refresh and not
Right.
rebound, but really heal, and so you're good to go for the next person, so you're not projecting any kind of fears or bullshit past experiences onto that possibility and that other
And
person.
that's hard to do, like, if,
Oh yeah, yeah,
like with the cortisol, like when women have built up cortisol levels in their bodies, it takes a long time to understand why you're acting the way you're acting when you talk about that subconscious level. And so when you're doing shadow work, you have to do like body shadow work because your body can be triggered just from the cortisol levels. So you have certain emotions, so and like when you do shadow work, you've got to understand like yourself in the past and why you've put yourself in the situations that you're put yourself in. It's because it's not always about somebody else.
fuck yeah. And at the same time, with that someone else, in regards to, I'm sure you're aware of this, that women absorb some of the male consciousness, through intercourse and all this stuff. So you're talking about that body shadow work that is paramount to kind of reclaim that sovereign female consciousness,
Well, and
right?
not just the maintaining the male consciousness, from the partner, but like there's a lot of talk in the spiritual community with women about how they're getting siphoned off of the energy, like that their feminine essence, and like they feel drained after relationships. because they're probably sleeping with the wrong partners, or and it's just like there's no give back. It's always taking that submission part where they can just pull from. And so there's a big talk about that right now with women. So
Yeah, and that could make a lot of people conclude that, oh, it's the guy was a narcissist because of that, life force energy siphoning and all this stuff, right?
right,
Like
right,
a
and
vampiric
he
type
might
of.
not be. It's just not a proper give. There could be people that
Yeah,
could have narcissistic tendencies and not be really narcissist. They're
true.
just not fully aware of how their interactions with people affect other people. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah, true. Yeah, just because someone's selfish doesn't mean they're an automatic narcissist sometimes.
just not very aware. Could be.
Yeah, we had a great chat with Caroline Linden about narcissism and
Yeah,
stuff, and that was a really good one. And bringing up the pop psychology aspects of it, and like, oh, you're an instant, expert because you have some really cookie cutter, easy to follow memes on social media. Wow, good to
right.
go. Like, there's so much more to it than that, but that's not bad. But still, it's like people take that and run with it like it's good to go, and there's nothing a whole lot more to like delve into and confirm and research into that.
Well, a lot of people probably post that stuff. If you notice on Facebook, if you're in a certain mood that day, you'll get those memes.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
Algorithm, half deity and half algorithm there, right?
Yeah, I'm glad the algorithm's been pumping out some good stuff from your end on my feed, at least on Facebook and
Well,
stuff.
depends on what kind of mood I'm in, I guess.
You got a good sense of humor too. I appreciate that
Right.
as well, Cheryl. For
I
sure.
like to laugh, without being able to laugh and listen to music and dance and smoke some fucking weed, then, what would life be about, right?
Yeah, totally. And I think you had something today of just like, yeah, it's so easy to fall into the fray and just get caught up in this insane world and that kind of stuff. So
Right. If
where
we
do you
don't
start?
like do our shadow work and all of that, then we're gonna get caught up in the fray. If we, and I get caught up online a lot. So like I'm always online because I live out in the woods, and I'm like a hermit and there's not a lot of people
Or
around. Sorry, I got a gnat flying around.
yeah, you're
It's
good.
like a Halloween decoration.
Cheers.
But yeah, if you gotta, well, I guess touch grass, cut a tree, have a fire, go sit beside the lake or water, you know.
All the elements.
Yeah, it's a scary world right now. We could be going through a lot, and I find myself online too much, and then I get all freaked out and like, oh my god, fear, fear, fear,
Wow.
but really can't do anything about it. Like, I would love to be able to change the world, but it's just hard to just change the world because it's all been set in stone for so long.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I mean, I guess when I'm in, as far as like finding community and possibly helping to build one, it could just be also an online community where folks are really trying to hold each other large and build each other up, not just, nitpick on some other stuff and whatever, right? We have to agree to like core eternal principles and axioms of truth, of course, but you know, where can we go from there?
Well,
If
like community, like, a lot of people want community and but they think that it's going to be like they go somewhere and it's all going to be kumbaya and just set like, just like, with nothing to worry about, no work to do, and that's not how you build a community. You have to work on things, like if you wanted to build like a real community where there's a space, everybody needs to work on that space, and it's not just sitting around, talking. I think that's where a lot of people, but that's my earth energy coming out, because it takes a lot to build like a real community, like in a kind of an echo thing. So,
yeah, totally. And yeah, the place you're at seemed like it was a happening spot. There was like a community going around, and it's not like people have to build houses and live together and this and that. Just being in a close vicinity is dope with people having some really profound skill sets that can help and benefit others, and you guys reference your services to others that they can help, and so you're able to make a living off of that. And so it's just like that's a beautiful thing. That's like the law of Gebel type of shit. equal energy.
Right. And the spot where that we were talking about, it's one of those areas that there's a crystal chambers underneath. Like there's a lot of crystal in the
Oh,
ground there.
wow.
So it has a lot of energy to the land, itself. So, and it's known for not just good energy, but could also be bad energy. So like, cause it can be really intense energy in that spot. So it's called Valley of the Vapors because it's all the hot springs and all the crystals and stuff like that. So it's a lot, and it's an older town. So there's like mafia's been through there, so it could have some built up karma and just in the land alone. So, but the
Wow. Yeah.
community, as far as in building communities, just any community, you have to be like able to come on an equal footing with everyone. So,
Yeah, I like that. Have some guidelines that people got to follow and hold themselves accountable to, and yada
mhm.
yada. No, not kumbaya, but
No, kumbaya, no. You know, just be
uh,
able to come to each other as individuals, not like trying to get in the mix. You know what I mean? This is who I am. This is what I'm about. And, you know,
yeah, and we don't always have to like each other all the time or agree on everything all the time.
right.
Especially,
We're not trying to be romantic with each other. I mean, maybe, some, but not that, you know what I mean? I think right now what we need to do with the community is find a way for men and women to come together, you know, and
totally.
not just on like the romantic level, but like being able to understand one another and like where we're both coming from because it's so this and this it's all tit for tat.
Yeah, and what happened to the brotherly love and the
Yo,
protection
bro.
of like, hey, that's my sister over there, even though we're not blood related.
Right. Right. Like,
You know?
we can respect each other even if we don't agree on all the principles someone else has. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like really trying to see ourselves, on that soul level, I guess.
Well, we're gonna do like the alchemy, yeah. So it'd be like the heart and mind. We've got to be able to open our hearts to, not just for romantic, but for like all of it.
Yeah, the uh, philos love, the brotherly, sisterly love, and agape, that eternal love for truth and creation,
Yeah,
existence,
yeah,
all,
yeah.
all is life, whatever. Yeah, it's like there have been people talking about these things, but it can just either fall on deaf ears or they're lip servicing some stuff and not actually being in alignment in real life about them, type of thing. But whatever, it's always a mixed bag and it's hard to generalize and whatever, right, buddy? And we don't have to generalize on something that I'm keep kind of laughing about that I have in my mind. I always laugh when think about the message you sent me in regards to alpha V's.
Oh, alpha vaginas.
Yeah,
Yeah, isn't that a crazy term? I thought
yeah,
it was a crazy term, like alpha vaginas. Like, what makes them an alpha?
yeah. And are we
What,
talking
what,
about
what,
like?
what do you think would make it an alpha vagina?
I mean, I'm just thinking about the boss bitches or whatever they want to are labeled as and stuff. The females running shit these days and
The boss
whatever.
bitch.
That's fine. Like I
Well,
don't
dude,
care.
well, yeah, I guess it was the boss bitch, but like, it's funny because now it's like a hierarchical vagina here. Like, what makes a hierarchical vagina? Like, is it because she can have kids? Is it because is it because of the mechanics of it all? Like but the boss bitch, the one that's like sync, when women sync with each other, through their periods and stuff like that, is it the one that everybody suck, was sick to? Because that happens a lot with women in women communities and red tint communities, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I think that's where that stems from. But I don't think in my mind, I don't see that as a like being an alpha. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So because like alpha, usually alphas are like I don't know, it's just not like sinking, you know what I mean? It's moving up, moving forward, you know?
Right, the dominant ones.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not natural as far as in when it comes to the body.
Yeah. What about the sigma or gamma vagina? It's like
Right, right, exactly, exactly.
whatever.
I gotta, I'm a Sagittarius Mercury, so I can like, I don't want to make some jokes here, but whatever.
Right, yeah. And I don't really read into these things all that much, but as far as like, semantics and all that, oh, we're talking about a vagina and this and that. But have you heard the etymology of vagina? That it literally means a sheath of a sword?
Right, the cunt, yeah. So like, yeah, the sheath of a sword. Like that's why we're the sword keepers. So
Yeah, I kind of interpret it as just like, oh, you're just, there to hold a wiener inside you. Like the sword being the phallic symbol and all that shit. Anyways,
right, the flower. It's so many symbolisms with it all.
yeah,
But it's all natural, the hermetic principles, all is gender in this world. So you can't really be embarrassed about our gender or,
yeah,
I don't think I definitely don't think it's hierarchical, with any of it. I think it's just a natural process, you know.
yeah. And I don't really understand the hierarchical thing. Is it within like women's circles or what?
Um, I guess women are a
Or
lot like men in that
society
sense.
or
It can be like depending on what kind of circle you're in, like is who's more spiritual, who's more
uh,
anarchy, who's more this, who's that, some of it can be clout chasing, I think.
yeah. And there's like the spiritual dick measuring contest and whatever.
Right, right, right. Who's got the biggest balls? Yes.
Yeah. I like how I don't know if you saw the video that Mario West put out where she throws out like 50 different names for vagina. I like how she kind of concludes it where I just prefer the word either pussy or yoni.
Yoni, I like yoni. I like
Yeah,
that
me
one. And
too.
it's the shape. So yoni is also the shape of it.
Mm,
So yeah, the yoni verse, the
yeah,
Renaissance.
yeah, just
Get your, get your,
being one's own creatrix within and outside of the matrix and all that shit.
yeah, Maya.
Yeah, so I guess the boss bitch archetype these days in modern times, it's just yeah, like looking to be the independent woman. I don't need a man. I'm running my own business or a CEO of whatever company, and I'm good to go. I can sleep with whoever. I can power trip and have my ego inflated to new heights and that kind of stuff, and I don't have to be held accountable because I'm running shit, bitch. What you know what I mean? That attitude.
Well, it could be nice, I guess, if you want power, if it's all about power. And then that is, I think, more of a masculine trait if it's just about power. You know what I mean? So, I mean, some women are just good at certain things and then it could just happen that way. Some women have tried to had to be like that in order to survive. So I don't know. I don't see a lot of the younger versions of what you're talking about because I'm not in that era. So it could be different for like the 20-year-olds, the 30-year-olds, that are in different scenes. And so I think it's like I said earlier, it's a all individual thing, just like it is with men.
Yeah, and it's like I'm not really assuming much because I've been out in France for so long and I've been pretty disconnected. But certain things that I've seen online with videos, they're giving me impressions, and I don't know if it's the most accurate sometimes. And I know some things I always discern like this could be way too general and all that stuff. But
A lot of clickbait going on. I know that.
Okay.
So you just like, they're doing it just for the clicks, you know.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that it's on both sides. It's not just one or the other. Like even like girls are just as toxic as guys are, and guys are it's a balance of both when it comes to toxicity.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Right. What other questions did I have for you? Yeah, you mentioned paganism, and
Mhm.
I mean, we're talking about the original traditions and teachings and all that stuff. What do you? I was always interested as what were the women's roles in those traditions
Well,
and
I don't really.
communities?
Well, I
Was it
mean, just
different
from
than?
what my understanding is, it wasn't like how we are now. Like, I mean, if we're going to look at like the Norse paganism, then the women had just as much power in men as men did in certain situations, like their homes. It wasn't always them, they ran their home and they probably still fight, And they're finding now like bones that they thought were Viking warrior men, and they're actually females. So I think it says a lot, and with Native American, like the Cherokee Native American women, they're the ones that were like head of the household, stuff like that. So I think that roles change and like how societies changed. You know what I mean? Once we've become more civilized, women were able to be at home constantly and more, and didn't have to say like if men had to go fight for war for their country or for their land, women had to be there. It wasn't just like you know, they were just gonna cook and clean, they had to chop wood and, stuff like that. So I think it like I said, when society changes over the eons and the decades, roles change.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And yeah, especially when things change, like oh, women have to pay taxes now.
Right? We have to pay taxes, we have to pretty much do everything the guys have to do now, like, unless I'm gonna marry someone that lets me sit at home, I can't just, think that I'm some pretty princess girl sitting in the forest somewhere, you
Yeah.
know? So, but like, and there's a lot of girls who are more feminine than other women, like who want to dress in pink. And I think that comes natural. My granddaughter, she loves baby dolls and babies and pink and nothing like me or her mom. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, yeah, and that's so good. It's their free will choice, and
right,
you can kind of see how people are being conditioned to not have that free will choice and have it being groomed towards certain things, whatever. But
right,
what I wanted to mention, excuse me, before is yeah, I guess when women are able to have that space and time and place to be themselves and all that stuff, it's magical, and it can be so creative. I love that, the subtle energy that's those silent moments can be very fucking powerful and all that stuff. But that aside, it's just you mentioned, with the women being able to take care of the home and have children and take care of them and
right,
not let the states or anyone else take care of them, right?
right. And that would be perfect and ideal for a lot of women. And some may, really love it. And it's such a scary thing for women when it comes to that nowadays because it's the statistic rates that we're going to end up dying alone with cats. So to be able to settle in your own energy, like it's taken me years being out here alone in the woods and not having to like rush all the time to where I felt comfortable, to where I could ease into who I am, and not feel like I have to compete with other women or with like survival so much, you know what I mean? Like with the matrix so much. I got out here like in the 2020. So like, when COVID happened, I got to hang out in the woods and I didn't have to worry about the city, and I just got to just, plant a garden. So it didn't come easy, especially for a lot of women in the United States, because we're so trained to be like, we've got to succeed, we've got to be, or we're nothing, whether it be in a relationship or a job.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just a lot of times when I see men and women, it's just like we're all living life. Let's all try to cooperate and just make it happen. What the hell? Like, why do we have all
Right.
these, predetermined expectations or ideas about one another and all this stuff? It seems so lame to me and so simple to just like flip your
Yeah.
perspective on it.
Yeah. It seems simple, but it's not because people have brains.
That are not being used properly.
Well, right. Well, or we just think too much. We're just always in our heads, like women, being in their heads and not being in their bodies, not just chilling and relaxing or allowed to chill and relax. They have families to take care of. They can't just take a week off for themselves.
Damn, yeah. And one of the things Mari West told me a while ago, or even just I might have just learned it, from one of her videos, is that and it goes in what you're talking about. With like men, they have two heads, right? And they can be way too heady. Either one, overly intellectual eggheadedness or whatever, or like acting like too much of a horn dog, thinking with their lower senses below the belt type of shit, right?
You're right.
And women sometimes being too much in their body and focusing on too much of that, or not tapping into, they have two hearts, the normal one and the yoni, and they haven't really tapped into that to Greece.
Two hearts. I have a song going through my head, but I won't sing it. Um,
Ah,
uh, women, women are. I don't know. I think that some women are just as horny as guys. To be honest, it really would depend on their birth chart placements.
oh yeah,
Like
fair enough.
so.
Especially with that in mind.
Right, and women, like, the older they get, like, women I mean, I know, like, a lot of guys think that women's primes are in their, early 20s, but that's for, like, breeding purposes, but, like, when it comes to sexuality, women's primes are actually in their mid-30s. Like, that's when women become more or, like, when their hormones become more active in that aspect. They enjoy it more, Like, we were talking about, like 80% of women don't have orgasms. Well, it's because it takes a lot to be able to settle in your body and not be worried about what you look like or whatever.
Yeah, and it's not just about blaming the women. I mean, some guys need to step up their performance as well and take the
True,
time
true.
to actually build it up and all this stuff.
Right,
And
right. And women need to be more vocal. Like, they'll just
sure.
be like, oh, whatever. Just maybe, if they're toxic, then they'll just do it to get what they want. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So women, women, I think that's where women have been repressed or suppressed in a way when it comes to sexuality, and that's probably why they're acting out the way like we're going through like a second a sexual revolution or something, where they feel like they want to be free, and that's how free they are. But when they get over all the freedom, they probably feel bad about themselves for the things that they've done just because it was fun at the time or whatever. But so it's once again brought back to the body and like with your heart, like women can fall in love a lot easier when they're having sex with men than men fall in love with women. Like it's known that if women orgasm, that makes them fall in love. Even if they don't like the guy, if he makes her orgasm, then she most likely is going to fall in love with him.
Fuck, man. I've had inklings about that since high school. That's funny you said that. I've never heard anyone
Yeah, that's
like
why
say,
the girls get real crazy.
damn.
If it's good. Girls go crazy if it's good. I tell my friend all the time, don't fall in the dick sand.
Yeah, yeah. And then, you've heard the phrase possibly, we grew up in the 90s and 80s and all that. She's addicted to what the dick did, in a sense, or whatever the fuck. And
Right.
it kind of stems back from what I was kind of getting at. Like, they're not controlling their yoni, that their
Right,
other
right,
heart.
or the desires, and
Yeah.
that I guess that's what you said with the heart, because it just, it builds up, that kundalini energy gets all crazy and twisted, and they don't know where to go.
Oof. Yeah, right. Damn. Then yeah, the emotions kind of all over
Mhm.
the place, right? Hard,
Right, and
and
we're
it gets
emotive.
even harder to control or whatever. Sorry, you were
Yeah,
gonna.
because women are emotive, even if we try to control our emotions, sometimes our hormones don't let us do it.
Damn, that's interesting. Just wow.
It's like it can be a body, like, women before their periods, they'll start crying at stupid stuff. Like, I'll be crying at stupid fucking commercials, dude, and I'm like, "What the fuck?" Normally, I wouldn't give a shit about the commercial. That's girls for you, and it
Yeah.
goes throughout most of their life. It's not something that's gonna change anytime soon. So,
Fuck, hearing
like,
that is
their
huge.
women have like more than just like a week of cycles, when it comes to hormone levels. It's like this throughout the month. You know what I mean? It's not just like this, then drop and come back up. It's
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
Uh-huh, yeah. And then you have to factor in what are people eating and how that kind of makes it more imbalanced or inconsistent and whatever. And
right.
I guess, have you noticed people or even yourself being able to control that ebb and flow? So you're the cause point to those effects, I guess, more?
Well, yeah, I guess you can, like you can, like you said, what you eat, and nutrients, supplements, and like how you treat your body. The older you get with anyone, it's going to be harder to do. I think as far as in being good to your body because of the society that we live in, always having to work and stand on concrete floors, like
Oof.
it's always sitting in one spot or standing in one spot.
Yeah, yeah. Certain jobs in a cubicle or whatever at
In a
a
certain
cashier
environment.
spot or at some office job or
Yeah,
you're the assistant, the secretary, or whatever the fuck, or even the CEO just sitting in chair all day, whatever, right?
right.
Yeah. Does that sound like fun? Shit. You can see
No,
me
I
at
don't like
work. I'm
it.
just like laughing, having a good time, serving food and drinks, all day and night, whatever. And yeah,
No, I've become unfit for working in society.
damn. I don't blame you. Yeah, for sure.
No, I'm joking, but, on
Yeah.
some aspects, like, the customer service aspect, the older I'm getting, I have less patience for stupid people, so
Yeah, me too. I don't know if I hesitated on getting a job back in the States when I was there for a year and a half, but in the restaurant biz, but it's different out here in France. I don't know. It's just and we don't get
it's
the
probably
same
better
tips and
food.
all that. It's a different dynamic as well.
Mhm.
And I got
More laid back.
yeah, and tons of customers are just really happy and enthusiastic. Like
Well, isn't, French the language of love?
yeah, that too. And like, oh, this guy's American. You have a cool accent, and this and yeah, where are you from? And this and that. Oh, you're a good server and all this stuff. And then you're always smiling. That's they don't always get that. And so yeah, I've been really appreciative for things I didn't think would be so impressionable for certain people. So I was like, yeah, it's
Well,
cool.
it's interesting to them because you're new.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like the novelty factor too, for
You're
sure.
like a television. "Oh, he's speaking American."
Yeah, I'm in a vacation destination and stuff. There's tourists, and we gotta try to make them dream a little bit more. Not like that shit. That
Right? Makes me wanna travel. I'm like, I wanna sell it all and travel.
yeah. I did a direct translation from French. It doesn't work the same. Il faut
Yeah.
les faire réveiller, les gars. Yeah. But anyways, so what else do we gotta talk about? Um, I love the fact that you're really deep into yeah the intuitive aspects of life and energy and astrology and stuff. And yeah, I wanted to touch on the post you had on Facebook in regards to, and if you wanted to expound on that more in regards to, yeah, what is the deal with women in the astrology communities and stuff, and why do you think they're taking like a backseat to certain names or whatever? Or am I getting that right or whatever?
What do you mean? Like, women in the astrology community taking a back seat?
Uh, like they're not getting the same respect or something like that,
Respect.
recognition.
I don't remember. I don't remember what post you're talking about, but I don't. The astrology community is crazy community. Oh, okay, I remember. It's a dog eat dog world, no matter what community you're in. Like
Ah, I
even
got you.
in the astrology community, like it's not even just about women. It's well that too. Women. Well, you know that, but everybody wants to be somebody when it comes to online content,
Ah, oh yeah.
and the astrology community is not any different, especially since the YouTube, or not YouTube, but the TikTok videos. Everybody's
Ooh.
getting into astrology. Like they'll be trying to do astrology and they've only done astrology for like 6 months,
But
and so like and well then also now there's a lot of AI astrology coming out. So
oh,
astrologers are gonna have to fight with like other astrologers who are into the AI, and it's gonna be like either I don't know, it's just you're either gonna be like old school astrology where you talk like this, or you're gonna just be able to get on an app and everything will be right there at your palm, where most likely these TikTok astrologers will not even be able to compete with.
damn.
So, like, if you're not gonna like, I listen to a lot of astrology. I don't just do astrology, but I'm actually listen to different astrologers to get a bird's eye view, of sorts. And astrology field is going to change, and it's going to go with AI. If we're not careful, it's going to be used wrong. So I think a lot of people need to really stop being scared of AI in a sense, and actually learn it so they can prompt it themselves.
Mm.
So.
Yeah, that makes sense. And
Because no
yeah, I
matter what,
totally
no
fucked up
matter what,
the my questioning. Sorry about that.
but no matter what, AI and all this tech, we're going there no matter if we want to go there or not.
Fuck. I just hope we don't go there as far as all that cyborgic integration and stuff,
Well, that's
hydrogel and
why we
whatever the
have to get
hell.
involved with it. Like, if we
Oh yeah.
don't, then the wrong people could get involved. You know what I mean? Like how
Yeah.
groups work, crowds work. There's different of every type. And it's all depends on like how you work with it. Like we are programming our own algorithms every day by what we say and who we interact with. It's just a different level.
Right. You're talking about like the cosmic algorithms and like the law of
Well,
attraction.
right, that too. And like the cosmic algorithms is like, we can work with the cosmos and understand on a different level when it comes to the tech, or we can, like if the power went out, then yeah, we need that old school stuff as well. So I think it needs to be integrated to all of it, where it moves forward in the way it should move forward in, and not just certain directions like Bill Gates or Musk want to take it.
Yeah, fuck all that. um
But as far as in the females in astrology, yeah, everybody wants. We're just like guys. We're very competitive.
yeah, I noticed that.
But
And that's
the thing
fine.
with astrology, no one owns astrology.
Right. No one owns it.
No, no one owns astrology. So
I wanted to ask you, you know, what are what are some of the aspects that men do that they need to stop doing, and what can men do on the flip, on the positive polarity, I guess,
oh, what
towards
men
women, of
can do.
course.
Men are funny to me.
And if I'm putting you on the spot, yeah, you can skip the
Well, no,
questions.
you're not putting me on the spot. I'm pretty open to everybody. Men are, I love men, and I think men need to do a lot of more shadow work. And body work. There's men out there who are still playing the field. They're like 45 years old, 50. Um, I think men just have just as much work as women do. I think women have become more spiritual over the years, and they're tapping into, and that's why the New Age movement and all that stuff has been pushed so much, is because it's more of a feminine aspect. But I think men need to tap into their spiritual side, is what I think men need to do.
Yeah, if you want to put it in a nutshell or even a meme, which there's more to it than that, of course, but
Right.
it's like guys are more on the red pill conspiratorial stuff, and women are more into the spiritual, astrological aspects, possibly.
Right, and men will make, I mean, like certain men, not all men, of course, but men,
Right.
some men will make fun of you because you're into the tarot or the astrology, and or you want to like burn sage or have crystals, or even be girly. A lot of guys nowadays will. I've seen a video on TikTok where this guy was saying, "Bro, stop crying," to his baby mama as she's having a baby. Like, she was pushing the baby out and he was telling her, "Bro, stop crying. It's not that bad." So men need to understand that we're women. I think the movements that we've gone through over the past 5, 6 years, men now view us as more masculine as what we are really. You know what I mean?
Damn. And I'm sure you've seen memes and other sentiments along the lines of, well, yeah, women are having to toughen up because guys are being soft as fuck sometimes.
Well, women are emotive. When we get hurt and upset, a lot of us don't want to cry. We don't want to cry. We don't want to be like a dude. So when we get hurt and upset, we're told that we're being girly or like a baby or we're crazy, and we can't be the emotive, if even if it comes up, we're not we're supposed to suppress it, and like if you do any research on like heart, like your heart, and like the more you suppress your emotions, the more heart problems you're going to have. And that's probably why a lot of men have heart problems, because they're always suppressing their emotions, or it comes out in the wrong time, like with an anger or violence of sorts, And I think a lot of men need to stop watching porn.
Fuck yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So I think a lot of men can get hooked on porn and it's an easy outlet for them. So, and then it's harder for them to interact with actually real women in the world.
Yeah, and some of their, I mean, just like having those graphics going on in their minds, like,
Right, and it's getting embedded into their subconscious, like, and some, and like porn is like, it's like a drug, just like all other drugs. The more you see it, the more you want it, the more stronger it's got to be.
and
So
then
it takes them a lot. It takes them up levels, and to where that it's going to be harder for them to
yeah,
interact with women.
so yeah, it's quite the instant gratification and with them extra dopamine hits and oh, you get a happy ending. Wow.
Right, and then you don't have to hug afterwards. No
You're
talking,
fucking
but you still don't get a sandwich.
yeah. Right. Oh shit. And that's kind of the approach men have sometimes, if they're too much into that stuff and it's like they're just fucking women and not making love to them. And as
Right.
Barry West puts it, they're like masturbating into them, not just like, you know what I mean?
Yes, they're using them as masturbation toys, yes. It's just,
Yeah.
you know, it's funny. There's a
So
demand and there's a market for it.
yeah, and so going back, women absorbing that type of consciousness with all that pornographic crap, going on in their mind being projected into that woman, the other one. It's like, whoa.
Well, and a lot of guys, I don't really know for a fact because, I've been single for a little while, but I've talked to people and I've talked to men, and like I know a man that is like he can't even like he's gone so far in the porn scene, it's like anime porn, and he can't ejaculate or release unless he's actually watching porn.
Wow. Fuck. Yeah.
So, and the girls, we want to be loved, and when we want to look pretty, and because women are really based on their looks a lot, especially in the culture that we live in, when it comes to femininity. So like femininity can mean a lot of different things. It doesn't have to mean the way we look.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And it sucks that it's sometimes limited towards, how it's dressed up, just on
Right.
that surface level, right?
Right. Because a lot of, I mean, like if we look into like Carl Jung psychology, like
Yeah.
women are real soft looking and feminine on the outside, but most likely women are really tough and hard on the inside, and then it would be the opposite true for like men. Y'all look really hard and tough, but on the inside, you're really sensitive.
Yes. Yeah, I think I bruised this big buff guy coworker because I was just trying to put him in his place because he wouldn't listen, and like I'm telling him how to do the right thing, and he's like, "No, man, I got it. I'm a confident guy," and this and that. It's like you're doing it wrong, man. Like what the fuck? It's like I don't care. Like if you had sex with 100 women and you work out and you're buff as fuck and you look good and you're doing great in life. Right here, right now, in the workplace, we have to cooperate as a team. And if you're not listening to what needs to be done, then you're fucking up. You know?
Right. And it gets really sensitive and it hurt his feelings,
Yeah.
just because he was trying to tell him what to do.
I
But
didn't
I
want
personally
to, but
like working with men more than I like working with girls, though, because for the majority of part, they'll see a job and they'll do the job. No questions asked, they'll just do it. A lot of women won't do that. There'll be a lot of questions and like, what if we did it this way? And like, and like putting time, doing it slowly. No, guys will do it and get it done.
yeah. And yeah, like with my coworker today, this beautiful woman, quite younger than me, but just hella mature for her age. She's like 24 years old, and she's like, "Yeah, Derek, we should, because I told her like, yeah, we gotta fix this, the bar set up on the inside of the restaurant, so we can, have an efficient service, when we're making drinks and whatever, right?" And that's all I said. And then like a couple hours later, she's like got all these ideas and stuff. Like, wow, fuck yeah, let's see what we can work with over here. So yeah, I love that type of input and creativity from the feminine side and the masculine side. It's just let's work together. That's that magic, right? So yeah.
Right, right. Right, unless it's a certain job and it needs to be efficient.
Fuck yeah.
But, that's just me. I know my experience, but, I'm also might be just because I'm a girl, so, but, yeah,
And I'm not bragging
I
about my
think
job. It's not the most righteous thing to be doing, but whatever, right?
whatever, whatever.
I do all this work on the side, making videos for free for the masses or whoever is listening out there in internet land and
Internet
all
lands
that
on the
stuff. Yeah,
YouTube.
yeah. And so I'm happy to hear that you're trying to start up, get it back going. Your podcast, or
Mhm.
so. What have you done in the past, and what are you looking to do in the future?
Well, the past, I've been doing my artwork, my dream catchers and headdresses that I make out of like natural products, like real goat horns or antlers and, my
Oh yeah,
dancing
okay,
dancers.
yeah. Those were you made those. I didn't know that. I saw a couple
Yeah,
pictures.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. That's what I've
Okay.
been doing over the years, like since about 2015 is making not headdresses, but like wire trees and the dream catchers and then the headdresses, later that came later.
Wow.
And so like I do that a lot. Wire trees, could make big wire trees or little bitty ones,
Ah,
but
cool.
that's really hard on my hands, so I don't do that as much. But as far as in the podcast, I started my deep water podcast where I'm doing interviews like back in the end of February. So that's what I've been trying to do. It's hard to do it every week, so I've just been kind of just keeping it steady and then adding my little silly dance things that I like to do that just relieves the pressure of my life, gives me an outlet, since I don't go and party at the bars and stuff.
Yeah, and
So, but
like
as far as in the future, I'm just going to be doing more podcasts and, we'll see what happens.
cool. And is it based on specific
Just
area
any
of
kind of
study or?
spirituality. I like mystical, spiritual stuff, metaphysics. It could have a little bit more science in there, more astrology and tarot cards. I think I'm going to start doing more tarot cards live. I just got to get a
Ooh,
routine down. Um, I don't know. I would like to do more with my dancing because I just love to dance. But that's,
fuck yeah.
it's not, unless I make a course or something about body movement. That's not really gonna unless I want
Oh
to
wow.
become TikTok famous. I'm joking,
But
but
yeah, that's great because you're fucking old school. You've been
yeah, I'm
listening
definitely
to
old school. Definitely old school.
you were listening to Mark Passio when he was only on True Stream Radio. What is it there?
Well, I've listened to a lot of these guys since
Yeah,
like
Starion and them
Yeah,
cats?
all of them back when like Truth Frequency Radio,
Truth
and they were on
Frequency,
Truth
right?
Frequency
Damn it,
Radio. Yeah, and so like that's where kind of all this
goodness.
podcast stuff started with me. Like I've done podcasts before in the past, like on Truth Frequency Radio with a ex that I had, and
Right, that story. Yeah, yeah.
so yeah, so like
Cool.
I've podcast scene is one of those scenes. Like I'm such into all the conspiracies, not all of it, because it's gotten crazy over the past couple of years, but
Sure.
like a lot of the conspiracy stuff, the alchemy, the hermetics, the magic, everybody gets into like we start off here, and then we move up into our knowledge and then we keep going in different levels and you know.
Yeah, and you've studied some of the works of Seth Esposa. I mean, you met him in real life and all this stuff. You're not a
Yeah.
student of him, and that's fine. But
No, I'm not a student.
yeah,
But yeah, I know Seth because not a whole lot. I've met him a couple of times, but it's not like I'm in his personal life or anything like that. But and yeah, like all this stuff it's not new to me for sure. And
cool.
I'm not like real popular or anything because I'm such a hermit. I'm a Virgo ascendant, so I like to spend a lot of time alone. And it's helped me
Word.
over the years. But like the
Sure.
names, everybody all these names, and there's a lot of old school people who've been doing it. And that's kind of why I started my podcast is because I've noticed over the past couple of years, there's a lot of new people that are doing it. And they're missing a lot of topics and subjects, and it doesn't seem like it's embodied in anything. And that's why I asked Michael for an interview because I'm a huge fan, and I would say a student of Michael, and in the sense, and so like he's taught me a lot, and so like I wanted to bring what I know from all this experience I have to the forefront. So, and that's why I call it deep water because I want to get on deep conversations, not just surface level stuff.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds great. Reminds me of ex-girlfriend. She's got her channel Oceans of Awareness.
Oceans of awareness. Yeah, and with Pisces, like right now, the North Node is in Pisces, and like, so I want to be so more, not so Virgo. I want to be more like, go with the flow, that kind of thing. So that's why I'm not trying to push on everything with it.
Yeah, totally. And I know
Yeah.
the tech situation being off grid isn't the most convenient or efficient or whatever.
No, it's not the most efficient, but it's, like right now I'm doing this on my phone. That's why I'm all squinting so I can see what,
Uh,
but, so yeah, and it's just a little
or
cabin, so I don't have a whole lot of room for like a studio and, and it's a small area. So it's hard to like, it's not like well, it is a tourist kind of area because it's by a lake. So like, in the summertime, it gets all booming and there's people around, but like the fall, the winter, and the early spring, there's hardly anyone around. And I've gotten new neighbors over the past couple of years before I was out here by myself. So it was really crazy out here by myself. But now I've got neighbors. So, it's a little bit different. But as far as in like, I wanted this so I could start a healing retreat, like where it kind of like art and like a shadow work retreat in a sense with the Reiki. So, but who knows where that'll go.
wow, wow. And I'm not too familiar with Reiki, although I've had a session done, and yeah, one of my ex girlfriends has done it and told me about it a little bit. But I don't have that many ex girlfriends, y'all. But
You sound like it sounds like you got an ex-girlfriend every month or so. I'm joking.
yeah, right. For every topic, there's an ex girlfriend. But
Right. Well, hey, I could be like that too. Yeah, you don't want me to talk about my ex-boyfriends or ex-husbands. We'll be here like for days here. But the Reiki has helped me a lot, and Caroline O'Reilly is my Reiki master.
no
So
way. I
yeah,
love
yeah. So
Caroline
she taught
Raleigh.
me Reiki. Like I didn't believe in Reiki, a couple years ago until she got a hold of me one day and gave me Reiki, and I feel like I really could feel her inside of me, like
Oh
literally.
wow, she gave you
And
the long distance
yeah,
one.
so we've done a couple of podcasts together, me and her, and I think we're gonna do another
Really?
one. Yeah, we're gonna do another one about the dark feminine in men, you
Ooh,
know. So, and it's gonna be talking about my trip to Australia. Good day.
yeah. Hey. Was there a little bit of thunder down under?
It's lightning. But this is not tuning fork. This is the sonic slider. It's a biofield tuning fork. It's got a boot on the end, so I use it in my Reiki when I do Reiki practices. And it's good for like we're talking about the feminine aspect and the renaissance of the yoni. It's good for like also like cramps and headaches and
Oh
stuff. So you can
wow.
put it up in your head and it'll get rid of your headache, and it tunes your bioenergy field. So like you see it moving, I think.
Yeah. Wow, that's
Yeah, and
cool.
then the boot that goes on the back of it, so it's supposed to go on your body.
So you make it vibrate, and then you put the other end
Yeah,
on.
you can put it like this or like anywhere on your body, and it'll
I got to
help.
order
And it
one of those.
tunes your when COVID pandemic happened, everybody was 6 feet away from each other, and so like your aura field is like 6 foot away. So this is like it tunes your aura field from like past and present. So it's pretty interesting in the Reiki sessions. So
Wow. So looks like a powerful tool.
I like it.
Yeah,
It's really nice. So
that's great. Yeah. We have all the time in the world if you want, but
I probably need to go. It's been a crazy day. My dog, I need to feed her and all that, and my rabbit. I have a rabbit now. I have to be responsible for a rabbit. He's so cute.
oh wow, oh cool.
He's so cute. And Mr.
Yeah.
Rorschach.
But yeah, Caroline Riley, we had her on Dissolving the Divide actually. It was a really
Oh
good
yeah.
conversation. I loved her Facebook groups she was in. I think
Yes, yes.
you were
She's
up in
really
there
cool. I
too, I'm
like her a
sure,
lot.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so we've done 2 podcasts together, but in 2019. So it's and she's her life's changed a lot over the past couple of years, and so maybe hopefully we'll here in a couple of weeks we'll be able to do the dark feminine in men and all the story that I want to tell. So
Fuck yeah. Do you mind
yeah.
giving the folks out there a little uh tidbit of what you're planning to talk about with that?
Well, the dark feminine. Well, my story I want to tell is a story of. Okay, so you know how in the spiritual movement there's the twin flame journey that we all think
Yeah.
we're having, right? And
Yeah.
so I got caught in the twin flame journey and I ended up in Australia and it wasn't very good. To the point that US Embassy had to get me home. So like uh
Damn.
so we're going to talk about that and like the psychology of it and the shadow work that I went through and the dark feminine in men when they're not really trying to actually heal, you know.
Yeah, I'm really interested, what that, looks like. How is it described? How is it acted out?
Right, and Caroline, she's done a lot of actual studies on Carl Jung. So
Oh,
like
fuck
she
yeah.
actually written shadow work books and all that stuff. So we're going to talk about that. So
Yeah, she wrote her own book that I
yeah, yeah,
Ella
she wrote
segment.
her own shadow work book. Yes.
I still want to buy that book. I don't know why I haven't already, but my money is so strapped. I'm just, anyways.
Well, I think that's what well, I think a lot of people are going through that right now. It's kind of
Yeah,
hard out there. So.
yeah. Anything else you would like to share or declare?
Well, I'm just gonna share my YouTube, which is Earth Alchemy Holistics LLC 333, I think. I think there's a 333 on there. And yeah, just come to my podcast, listen to Deep Water. I'm gonna try to have different I have one guest that I'm hoping to get in August, so that'll be really cool because she's really cool. And a couple other people I'm trying to be, trying to be like, hey, come talk to me. But I'm still new on the scene, so I'm still looking for subscribers and all that. So you know how it goes. I just started, but hopefully, hey, it's been going fairly well, for me just starting. So I'm pretty
Yeah,
grateful.
that's
So,
great. Yeah, yeah, folks listening out there, go show some love over there. Let's support this and get behind it. So yeah, looking forward to what you were trying to share with the world, Cheryl.
well, thank
Thank you
you.
so
Thank you
much
for having me
with
on.
sharing so much with us today.
Well, it's been good with my first interview. So I haven't been interviewed before, so it's nice.
Yeah, it didn't seem like it was your first, but yeah.
Well, yeah, it's definitely my first, but yeah, it
Yeah, yeah, it was great all around. As I said before, really appreciate your perspectives and observations on things with your many, many years of researching and just inner work and the whole nine, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
the life experiences behind it, that means a lot. So yeah, merci beaucoup. Take care out there, and yeah, Earth
Thank you,
Alchemy
guys.
in the house. Looking forward to it. Ciao, ciao.
Rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up.